Yeah, here it is.
Hello.
Hello, hello. Good morning, everyone.
Good evening.
Good morning.
Hello.
Great
Thanks
to
for
see
joining us.
Yes, do you hear me? Good morning.
We do.
Yes,
Good morning.
very clear picture.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
can I let people know
Yeah.
who this man is? Okay. So Silas, I just want to give a little bit of your bio
Yes, thank you.
to the room. Okay. So as I said, Silas is not Jewish. He's a Lithuanian documentary filmmaker, he's a historian, he's a researcher, and he's dedicated his life to tell the whole truth about the history of Lithuania. We did explain before you came on what actually happened in Lithuania, Silas. So he's the recipient of many awards. He was named Lithuania's Person of Tolerance by the Sugihara Foundation in 2004. He was awarded Finland's Rogachi Humanist of the Year Award in 2008 for outstanding contribution to the collective memory on the Holocaust. He's archived in Lithuania and his not-for-profit film studio, Kopa, worked on projects with international media and companies. Farewell, Yerushalayim Zelita, Jerusalem of the North, a documentary film about the destruction of the civilization of the Lithuanian Jews. The End of the Road, with the Council of Europe in cooperation with Professor Dovid Katz, that documented the last Jews of. He made a landmark film called The Lovely Faces of the Murderers, where he actually got Lithuanian perpetrators, people who had killed Jews, to admit to their crimes on camera. And his latest film, Petrified Time, his latest film, Petrified Time, documents interviews with the last eyewitnesses of the Lithuanian Holocaust in Šeduvos Chapel, 2 hours north of Vilnius. In the film, these non-Jewish residents disclose how they benefited from the killings of their Jewish neighbors, including inheriting clothing that was blood-stained, gold teeth, and similar kind of artifacts. By interviewing survivors and witnessing the actual killers in his 35-year career, Silas has single-handedly documented the murders of that first week beyond what anyone else has been able to achieve. He's debunked the far-right history-fixing campaign undertaken with vast government funding on an industrial scale, and his interviews stand as an irrefutable record to this uncomfortable truth. But he's paid dearly for his commitment to truth-telling. Petrified Time was commissioned by a new museum in Šeduva, set up with government and private funding. It's called the Museum of the Last Shtetl, and it's meant to be a monument to Jewish life. But when Silas delivered his film, the powers that be decommissioned it because it revealed too much. The film contains interviews with some of the last remaining Lithuanian eyewitnesses, discloses the identities of the local killers, and discusses how they personally benefited by receiving the property of their murdered Jewish neighbors. There's even a plaque honoring these local killers in the church in the town. And he's now being sued by a coalition of powerful forces who want to bury the truth that is revealed in this way. He's been personally threatened, ruined, his non-profit Copper Studios is forced to close down, his mother's bank accounts were allegedly frozen, and his unique Holocaust archive is under threat. So that is why we have decided to make this award, to recognize his work and thank him for his work and to honor him. And there's Dovid Katz as well, who has worked with Silas documenting interviews with the last Jews of Eastern Europe for the last 20 years. So these two men really are at the forefront of the activism standing up against the Lithuanian government. And they need all the help they can get. Dovid's website, defendinghistory.com, is under threat. It is the biggest repository of history and facts about the situation. You can check it out, defendinghistory.com. And there's a thing there where you can donate. Don't need a lot of money, but we need to keep the website alive. It has also been under threat. Both of these men have had their careers ruined, their lives threatened, because they have stood up for historical truth in Lithuania. Over to you.
Just while we're waiting, I'll just explain to you what we have here in the room, because I'm not sure how much you can see. So we're in Sydney, 15,000 kilometres away from you, but it's the headquarters here of NABRIF in New South Wales. NABRIF is an international human rights organisation and community service organisation. And we admire the work that you have done, and we're very grateful and honoured that you have spent your lives publishing, researching and making film about the truth, so that we can go and from there and make sure that some of the false stories that are starting to emerge in your countries, but also in other Western countries, that they don't get propagated anymore. So, Sulis, we send you a certificate. I don't know whether you're able to, whether you've got it there with you. Great. Okay. So there it is. Vivian sent that over. So, and it's made the front page of their newsletter. So I'm glad that's worked out. So we'd love to hear from you, and then perhaps maybe if you have time, perhaps we can ask you some questions. So thank you both, and over to you, Sulis.
Well, good morning, everybody. Distinguished President Benny Monheit, Doctor, my dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to be all us together this morning with extraordinary event in not only my life, but only in the life and biography of all our team, strong team and very friendly, very motivated. I'm returning back to background of that day. I am an analyst, and I am recalling the moments of the past 30 years. We were collecting the last living traces of the Holocaust in Lithuania, in Belarus, Latvia, since our archive covers these areas. And I remember the key. Which helped me to approach the killers, the murderers during the Holocaust. I approached them with the same Christian statement that the sin continues, but the sin can be made easier by confession. The same is in situation in our country. The same is in situation of our movie, Petrified Time, which in the beginning, in the middle of the production, was cut by the commissioner, Shaduva Museum, and Kanovich. And then when the contract was cut, we succeeded to complete the first version of the movie. with support of private sponsor Evgeny Hitterer and his wife Anna Avidan. And when we completed the movie, the war in Ukraine started, and Kanovich sued us second time with demand to remove us, all of us, people who made the movie and our studio, from the credits of the movie, so to cut ourselves from the movie, to make the movie anonymous. Second demand was that we are forbidden to communicate the movie. And third demand is that we're giving all the rights to censorship the movie. That's why it's very, very important for us. And of course, it is the situation, more the situation of the movie. It is the situation of whole Lithuania today. Because with the, I will say, I will name the things how they are. On the threshold of the Third World War, the Putin's narrative is to show the Eastern European countries who do not want to tell the truth about the Holocaust past in their countries. The Eastern European countries, every one of them, and Lithuania among them, every Eastern Lithuanian country has a skeleton of the Holocaust in its shelter, a hidden skeleton. And the point is whether we will tell the truth about what was happening, whether we will hide the truth. More sadly, just a week ago, we included to our movie the Goebbels narration. Goebbels narration, which came to air during the first application to the nation on the first day of the Barbarossa, 23rd of June 41, when the first declaration of so-called liberation army, who liberated Lithuania for the Nazis, they were just copying the Goebbels narration, and this is also included to the movie. We found the unique archive audio that the Jews, all the presence, all the 800 years presence in Lithuania, there were poison mushrooms on the holy body of Lithuania, and they all have to be cut from the body of Lithuania, and then Lithuania, it is 41, and then Lithuania will luckily participate with Hitler's invasion to the east. Unfortunately, we started to hear this narration with the beginning of the Putin's aggression to Ukraine. We started to hear this narration again in Lithuania. There are few publications that the Jews have not to claim for the truth about how their grandfathers and grandfathers were murdered in the forest pits in Lithuania in the beginning of autumn 41. Instead of them, the Jews have lay on the knees against Lithuania for the Bolsheviks who participated in the occupation of Lithuania in 1940. This is completely Goebbels' narrative, because the Goebbels provided the Barbarossa policy to Lithuania with a slogan, Judo Bolshevism. And so it was some indulgency to murder rabbis, old people, merchants, doctors, lawyers, simple traders, people who had obviously nothing common with Soviet occupation. And so this Goebbels narration is coming to Lithuania with the Putin's aggression. It serves to Putin policy, because Putin wants to see Eastern Europe, the countries of NATO, the east of NATO bloc. Putin wants to see them denying their own history. And I'm very happy that with support of kind sponsors, support of some our projects of the government, support and now support of B'nai Brit, we will be able to say the truth, to talk about the truth, and to give the voice, to the ashes of our innocently murdered and buried in the mass graves, our Jewish Gentiles. That's why I'm very grateful to B'nai Brit. I'm very grateful to my team, producer of the film Sigita Sudika, cameraman Karlis Mikalauskas, Juozas Stashys, technical director of the whole project. I'm very grateful to the composers of the film. We started to think about the music, about the soundtrack, with great Lithuanian Jewish composer Anatoly Shenderov. And when he passed away, he gave to continue the creation of soundtrack and the production of soundtrack to Arkady Gottesman. And so the soundtrack really, we're very happy. It gives authentic and very sensitive, very expressive spirit for all the narration of the movie. It is something as breath of the people who left the shtetl were talking about it. I also want to say thank you today to our lawyers who struggle briefly in the court, because Kanovich wants not only his claim is not only our studio, our archive, These claims are my own house, my all savings, my bank accounts, and also the bank accounts of my 98-year-old mother. So the lawyers who bravely struggle to let the movie go to the people, struggle to communicate the movie to the audience as you, and also to stay safe. Renata Tatol and Thomas Fane, who voluntarily and on his own means took a flight to Vilnius, spent a long time in our studio, went deeply in all the case materials, provided very strong loyal suggestions and recommendations. I also am happy and appreciate the opportunity to thank Dr. David Katz, with whom who a bit less than 30 years ago, who offered me the amazing trips to the last Yiddish talkers to Belarus, where the world opened to me, the Jewish world, authentic Jewish world. I would say the biblical Jewish world opened to me due to the love of these old and living people to David Katz. And so it was really a big gift for me of feeling and of understanding, and feeling and understanding of those people, of the Jewish people who were expelled, who were tortured, who were murdered innocently in our country. They feel that we need to give the voice to their ashes. It makes us to move further, and distinguished award of B'nai Brit, I'm sure, will as well as motivate us, as open for us new possibilities to continue our work. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was very deep and very touching. I'm wondering if David wants to say a couple of quick words, and then we'll have to finish up. But we wish you ongoing success and good health, and keep in touch. David?
Hello, is the sound all right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear?
Hi, David. Yes. Hi.
Okay. Greetings to New South Wales from Old North Wales, where I find myself at the moment. You never know. You never know where you'll end up starting out from Brooklyn. Well, I want to begin by thanking Mark Radomski, thanking everyone at B'nai B'rith in Australia and New Zealand for this wonderful, inspired, and courageous gesture to step in when so many Jewish and other organizations in North America, in Europe, in Israel, and elsewhere are simply afraid of things that strike them as too controversial. Now, very briefly, I've been based in Vilna for the last 24 years, and I have found the people of Vilna and Lithuania to be wonderful, tolerant, and humorous. It is not a country of evil or anti-Semitic people. There is a problem with the elites in government, media, academia, who are obsessed with fixing the history of the Holocaust and have made it bogusly an issue of national security. And strange as it sounds, Lithuania is a very democratic country on everything except question. You can stand outside the parliament and curse the president. You're protected by the laws of the European Union, by the Constitution of Lithuania. But if you touch the fake narrative about the Holocaust, then you find that you are some kind of villain, of outcast, of enemy of the people, of Russian spy, all kinds of slander, disemployment, disengagement, all peaceful, by the way. And it's part of East European anti Semitism, hating local Jews only for their remembering the true narrative of the Holocaust and loving foreign Jewish tourists and so on. Now, I want to turn to Saulius Beržinis, who was the pioneer of truth telling among Lithuanian intellectuals. I first saw his film, Farewell Jerusalem of Lithuania. I think it was in late 1992 when we had invited a scholar from Vilnius to Oxford for a year, and this was shown at an evening. And I was amazed by how much I learned of the daringness of Saulus and his camera to get what people know and are thinking to be enunciated, not to be hidden, not to be covered up. This is one of Saulus's huge talents. So Saulus brings to this table today, first of all, an enormous intellectual perspicacity and love of the truth in the classic sense of love of truth. That if you are required to lie, you must resist and tell the truth and let the consequences be what may. Then comes Saulus's unique talent, and I say unique because in the 30 odd years I've been following very closely Lithuania, no other filmmaker's camera has succeeded to get not only witnesses and survivors to tell the truth, but even the perpetrators. I'm referring to Saulus's historic film of, I think, the late 1990s, The Pretty Faces of the Killers. Now, Saulus's work has served to document the truth on a number of issues that non-truth has been written into the narrative. For example, the history of the first week, June 22nd, 23rd, 1941, until the end of the month, when thousands and thousands of innocent Jewish neighbors, very often young women and older rabbinic types, were barbarically murdered by so-called nationalist freedom fighters, patriots of the Lithuanian Activist Front. By interviewing people on all sides, Saulus has documented the truth of that, even when very sophisticated historians continue to fake it. Then comes the issue of massive participation, enthusiasm for providing voluntary killers. And this too is part of that inconvenient truth that Saulus has documented. I know time is short, so I'll just finish perhaps with one memory. As Saulus briefly mentioned just now, he and I worked together for years, traveling into the forbidden land of Belarus, which of course is the largest country of the Lithuanian Jewish lands of Lita. And we went from town to town, interviewing, finding, talking to, and then supporting the last, as Saulus taught me this word, Mohicans. We would come to a town for the Mohicans. Well, one of the towns we visited several years in a row, I think 97, 98, and 99, was Radin. Today it's Radun in Belarus. It was once in Vilna Gubernia, in the province of Vilna, famous for the Chofetz Chaim and his yeshiva. And in Raden there was one last Jew, Meir Kistola, Oliver Sholem, who had survived by hitting the German guard on the head with his shovel and running into the forest to help start the partisan group on May 10th, 1942, the day of the massacre of, I think it was around 1,500 Jews. So anyway, Saulus and I were spending the day, and Saulus says, David, I need a few hours to do some of my own work here today. And I sheepishly said, can I follow you? And he said, no, if you insist, okay, but I don't know if it'll be interesting for you, and etc., etc. Saulus knocked on the doors of every chata, old little wooden house, in sight of the massacre site, of the mass grave. That's the site of the massacre of the Jews of Raden that happened on that was perpetrated on May 10th, 1942. And Saulus, in his beautiful literary Russian, was speaking to each of these elderly people he could find, and he was asking whether it is correct, as the history books say, that the killers were only Germans and local police, collaborating local police. And finally, Saulus was able to get the testimony of the oldest people, then in their 80s, late 80s and early 90s, that a bus came from Vilnius with Lithuanian-speaking shooters who came that day and went home that night. Saulus was left in tears, but he had that intellectual gratification that he documented the truth where all the history books tell a non-truth. So I think we can all be very, very happy that we are today honoring a real champion of truth. Thank you.
Robert, thank you. We're very grateful for your summary. And I think you have an Australian connection because you worked with Professor Mark Baker, the late professor who is who's written a book too, and I think came to see you. So we have that connection, and we'll want to follow up with you as well. And thank you for supporting Sulius and for your own work, which we're very proud to support. So good night from us. Good morning to you. And
thank you,
shalom.
thank you, thank you. And hope we keep in touch. Thank you all. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Wow. Oh.